Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and do you remember this case from a few videos ago? If you remember, I was scrapping out a load of old computers, and this was an old e-machines system with a plastic moulded front on it, and it looked quite modern. All you had was two disk drives visible there, no other bays or anything. And initially I was just going to scrap this thing out and send it for e-waste, pull the motherboard and things out of it, anything that was of any use. And then when I pulled the front off it to get the switches and other bits and bats I thought might be useful out of it, I suddenly realised that actually it's an older case really. They just put a newer front on to make it look more modern, and hidden the 3.5-inch bay and stuff. And I thought, it's a good case to do something with. And I've been thinking, over a bit of time, what can I do with this case? And I've come up with I think it's a cool idea. I don't know if you are going to think it's a cool idea or not. And it's kind of something, I watch some of LGR's videos. And do you know how he has the wood grain 486? Well, I'm kind of thinking of doing something perhaps a little bit more high-end than using stick-on Fabulon. I'm going to perhaps do it won't be a 486, it'll be something a little bit higher than that. I've got various options actually of what to put in this thing, but first of all, before I even go into that, I want to, because I've not 100% decided what I'm going to do with it. I want to actually make the case as I want it. Like I said, I've come up with an idea and I think it's quite cool. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new front for this. And that front is then going to be veneered with a really nice wood. I went on eBay the other night and I managed to pick up quite a nice veneer. Now off the top of my head I can't 100% remember what wood it is. It's either mahogany or an oak or a cherry or something like that. It's something with a really nice grain in it. So I'm basically going to make a veneered wood front for this computer. But I can't just stick the veneer to the metalwork here, that won't really work. Things will protrude and what have you. So what I need to do is make a front panel which will fit on this computer, which I can then apply the veneer to. So that's the idea. So what I've got, actually, this come off a friend's old dressing table. I've got some plywood here, and this is perfect for what I want. It's about 4 mil. I think it's probably 1940s. It was an old, it was an old dressing table that a friend of mine was breaking up and throwing away, and offered me for firewood. And I just found this piece out in the scrap, and I thought that is perfect, and it's just the right size for what we want. We can just cut out the piece that we want out of this. But before we get on to that, what I'm going to have to do is strip the rest of this computer down and have a look at a few issues we might find. So we'll get this stripped down. I'll address them few little issues that I've looked at that I think we might have a problem with, and then we'll have a look at actually marking this out, and then I can take this down to the workshop and I can actually cut out our backing piece. And then once it's cut out, we can actually figure out how on earth we're going to fix it to the front of the computer. Ideally so it can possibly be removed again. We're also going to have to look at, like for a power switch. I've got one in mind I want to use for that, and obviously we're going to need a power LED and a hard drive LED. So I've got a few options we can look at for them. I think I've got something actually which will work really nicely for them on this thing. So anyway, I'll get the camera reset up and we'll get this a bit more stripped down, get everything out of it, and we'll have a look at marking this board up. So back in a sec. Right, hopefully you can see what we're doing now. So the first thing we want to do is get this thing basically completely stripped down. So let's get it started. This is a nice case actually. It is quite a heavy, substantial case. I'm pleased now that I actually decided to save it rather than, like I said, just sending it for scrap. It will make something really cool and interesting. Even the side of it, I mean, that is substantially heavier than on a modern computer case. That's decent steel. I think we did work out what age this was from. I think it's from around about 2005-ish. It's got Windows Vista Home Basic on it, so that'd date it, wouldn't it? So probably a little bit later than that, with having Vista as the operating system. So what would that make it? About 2008, 2009? Yeah, 2008 possibly. 2009, somewhere around that kind of era. Right, so let's get this top cabinet off. This is quite unusual. It's usually the sides slide off and the top stays the same. This is unusual. There's one side slides off and then the top and the other side are actually one piece. It's being a, there we go, that's free now. It's being a little bit awkward to disassemble. There we go, we've got that off. So let's get that out of the way. Actually makes it a little bit easier to work with. Right, I think the only other thing we're going to have to take out actually is the CD-ROM drive here. Oh, and actually, what I am going to do, because I want to expose both 5 1/4 inch bays. Because no matter what, even if it's you know, a 5 1/4 inch floppy drive and a CD drive, or 2 CD drives, I'm definitely going to put something in both 5 1/4 inch bays. So, like I said, as this is a bit of a homebrew affair, we will open them both up. Nice IDE DVD rewriter there actually. That can go into that might actually go back in this. It'd be a useful accessory to have in it. Right, one thing I want to do is take out that there, so I expose both drives. I think that's about it for taking stuff out. Now, one thing that might be an issue is we've got these little standoffs, one there, and one at the top on both sides, which would have kept the other front just pulled off a little bit. Now I want my new front to sit really flush with that, so what I might, let's just try see if we can just squash those in. I don't think they'll cause a problem if we can. Oh, look at that. Yeah, I can just go around and just slightly massage it and just squash in. That one's a bit more tricky, but these little protrusions, there we go, that's squashed in. So it's completely flat down there. Let's do the other side the same. Hopefully I can get in the same and do it. Yeah, that's pushed in, so that's flat. And there's one there. It's not quite flat yet. There we go, that's flat, and then I've got one more at the bottom there. Let's hopefully we can do that one. I was actually thinking they might be a bit more trouble than they actually were. Those were dead easy to flatten off. Right, now all that's flattened off, let's just have a think here now, because we're going to have the front. Yeah, what we're going to need to do, we're going to have to put this back on. And make sure it fits back in place. And we'll put this side back on. There we go. And just hold them in place. We may even end up putting the board that was in here, I'm not sure yet. We'll have to think about that. So we do have the proper backplane for it there. Right, let's get that piece of wood that I'm going to use in. I think that will be ideal. The reason I wanted to put those sides back on is so I can flop that down on the wood. I can make the bottom of it nice and flat with there, along there, and then I can draw around this piece of wood. So I'll take a marker pen. I'm being very gentle turning this round so I don't disturb the line I've already made. I'm quite happy with that, and we'll go up there. Right, so basically we've got the outline of the computer now on there. Now what I want to try and do is take the sides off without moving it. This might be tricky, I don't know if this is going to work. In fact, I only need to take one side off so I can get inside and draw around it. So what I want to do is mark out where the drive bays are on that piece. So let's spin it back round. We'll try and take this side off without, like I said, without disturbing it. So far I'm looking along them lines and I've not moved it, so it's still in exactly the same place it was when we started. Let's pop that side off. Then you can see why I wanted to actually put that together first, because if you look, we've actually got a line. If I'd have drawn the line here when we cut it out, you know, it would have been smaller than the front of the computer. Doing it that way, we've got around that. So if I get my pen now, I should be able to gently get in here and mark round where the 5 1/4 inch bay is. And where the 3.5 inch bay is. And actually I'm going to also mark out where I think I'm going to put the power switch and the LEDs for the hard drive and the power LED. So I will just mark these out now. This is quite tricky because obviously you've got things in the way and I want to get these pretty much exact, so we may have to do another little bit of marking out with a ruler just to finish edges off and stuff when I finish this, but hopefully we can get most of these marked out like this. Okay, I think that will do us. In fact, there's some other holes I'm just going to mark out while I'm in here. And that's one there, one there. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to the other two. Yeah, I am going to have to take the other side off slightly annoyingly. So again, I'll try and spin it round and hopefully I'm not going to disturb it because I still want it in exactly the same place as it is on that piece of wood. So far so good. I've not, looking at that line along there, I've still not moved it. Take that screw out. We'll get the there we go. Oh, I removed it. Yeah, unfortunately I did. I moved it. I moved it. Let's see if we can get that back in line, because I can see around there exactly where I marked the other one. So I think we can actually get that back in line. Oh yeah, lovely. Yeah, I'm happy with that. It's actually still where it should be. So I can mark those over 2 holes. There's one there and there's one there. Right, okay. Now I should be able to lift this off, and hopefully, there we are. That's what I wanted to leave. So obviously I need to just go in and just finish off some of these lines where I couldn't quite get, but basically that's what I wanted. Just get a straight edge and we'll just finish off those lines. There's an old flopper here, that'll do. In fact, I could use that CD drive because that's nice and flat, isn't it, and square. So we'll put that in there. I can just finish off that line like that. Finish off that line there. And that line there. Oh, there's a piece there as well, isn't there? You get that square. And go. Along there like that. Okay, that should do. Right, so that's the idea. So what I need to do is I need to cut out basically there for the 3.5 inch bay. The 2 5.25 inch bays there need cutting out. I'm not cutting out that piece there or that piece there. That's where I'm planning to put the 2 LEDs for hard drive and power. And that there is where I'm planning to put the power switch. And actually I'll show you. This is what I was thinking of using. This come off one of the other cases that I scrapped out. I thought this might work really nicely. I've got a nice little chrome power switch there, and it's actually a loop. In fact, we could possibly do away with the power button down there because that's actually an illuminated switch. You connect it to 5 volts there, and I presume there should be an LED in there somewhere, and the outside of that actually glows green. So we could use that as the power switch, and then we'd only have to put one down at the bottom there just as a hard drive activity LED. We could actually put 2 down there, couldn't we? We could have one as hard drive activity and one as network activity. That might be a useful use for a second position down there actually. I'm not going to bother putting USB or anything like this on because it's going to be like a kind of retro computer. You know, obviously it probably will have USB, but it'll just be on the back. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'll take this down to the workshop and I'll get this cut out, and we'll sand this so it's all smooth, and I'll bring it back and we'll try to fit it to the case and see how it does, and then we'll have a look. I'm debating, basically what I've done is there was 4 holes in the front of this case here, if you look. One there, one there, one there and one there, and I've traced those through onto here. Now I'm wondering where I could use that as the mounting method for fixing this to the front of the actual case. As in, what I could do is, before I veneer this, I could actually countersink 4 screws into the timber there, so they're absolutely flat, and epoxy them in place so they can't move. Then we veneer it, and then I'd have 4 screws that would basically go through, line up with them holes, and hold the new front in place like that. I'm just thinking it might be a little bit tricky to get in to actually put the especially one down there is really, really tight, but I think I can do it. I think that might actually work quite nicely. Yeah, I think that would actually work really, really nicely as an elegant method to actually hold this in place, and it would mean if we ever did want to take it off, it would be possible. So anyway, I will I will get this cut out in the workshop, and we'll come back and we'll have a look to see how much work we're going to need to do with filing and what have you to get this to perfectly fit there. So back in a sec. Right, we're back, and as you can see, some progress has been made. Now, I'm sorry I couldn't really film a lot of me doing this, mainly because it's very tricky to film in the summer house, and it was absolutely bloody freezing. I wanted to do in there as minimum time as possible. Basically what I did, as you saw, I basically marked the outside out there, and I just cut the frame out to the lines with the bandsaw, because that was nice and easy, and it gave me a nice clean accurate cut all around there. Now if you've noticed, seeing this here, what I actually did at that point, because I wasn't too happy with these lines, the felt was like really spread like that, and I wasn't sure which line was which. I actually brought it back up here, lined it all back up, and actually used the other side and a pencil. So I took a pencil, which gives a much neater, finer line, and I drew round everything again. Went back down to the summer house with it, and roughly cut out that hole there and that hole there with the jigsaw. I just drilled a hole like in the corner like that, and cut that out roughly with a jigsaw. The hole for the power button there, I just drilled that on the pillar drill with a spade bit. I found a spade that was ever so slightly smaller than the button that I want to fit in there. So I drilled it out with that, and then basically I took a piece of emery paper like that, rolled it up in the hole, and just run it round like that until the button was a nice tight interference fit in the hole. So that's how I got around that. At that point I brought it back up here. Now unfortunately I did start filming this, well I thought I'd started filming this, but the other battery on the camera went flat and I didn't realise. But you haven't missed that much. Basically what I did at that point was make these out to the full size here and here, and how I did that, I drilled through and I screwed the panel actually to the front of the case. This is actually fixed on now, so it wouldn't move. I then took my Dremel kind of tool. It's not a Dremel, it's a cheap copy that I've had for years, with a sandpaper bit on the end, and basically I just went along, and because we've got metalwork on the inside there and we want to go right to the metalwork, I just basically ran along like this and slowly sanded it away. Halfway through this packed up, and this should actually be multiple speed controllable. It isn't anymore. The motor speed controller in it's failed, so I just bypassed it. It runs full power, but it was still enough for me to at least finish off doing that. So that basically got, and I do have basically I have a smaller one of them I was using to get as close into the corners as I could. So that got most of this done. I then went in with just a file like that and basically finished all the corners off and squared all the corners up. Now I will admit fully, it's not perfect. I got a little bit, I had it basically upside down at one point while I was filing. I had it like this, and I put a little bit too much, let me get you down, you can't see what I'm pointing at. I put a little bit too much pressure on there, and it is slightly out there, but I'm going to run with it anyway. If I was being absolutely pedantic, I'd have to completely redo it again and redo that, but I've already got, you know, best part of 3 hours I think into actually cutting and shaping all that. It's not a quick or easy process, but we are now to the point where we should be able to put some veneer on here. I've countersunk 4 fixings in, and I've actually epoxy resined those in position so they shouldn't move. I should be able to unscrew them from the back, and when I take this front off, those 4 fixing points there should stay in place. I'm a bit careful showing this because it's got my address on it, but earlier today my veneer turned up. So what we'll do now, we'll get this back. In fact, I wonder, you know what? We're going to leave this on here while we apply the veneer, because that's going to be our next process, is actually putting the veneer on, because the whole weight of the computer will help us with the veneer. I'll get this veneer open, and we can take a look at what I've got, because this was cheap. I think this was a tenner, and I've got more than enough. I've got more than enough just to do this one computer front here. I can probably do some radio cases or whatever else I need to do. That reminds me, actually, I need to give Andy that roll of veneer that he let me have that belongs to Steve. I need to give him that back so he can get on with Steve's TV. Right, we're in. I think we're in. Yeah, we're in. Okay. Oh, right, okay. Right. They've like put it in a cardboard tube. Ah, there we go. So here we are. It's very, very thin. It's paper thin, but you get the idea. Right. It's just going to be wide enough, that I think, for what we want. So I need to cut a piece of this veneer off. Just a little bit longer than we need. I need to cut it about there. Just bear with me a second, folks. I'm just going to go and I just realised I haven't got a pair of scissors here to cut this. So I'm just going to cut this veneer, and we'll be right back, and we'll look at applying it to here. So back in a sec. Okay, we're back, and I've cut a piece of the veneer. Now this is the thinnest veneer I have ever worked with. Apparently it's got like a backing on it to keep it together. It is incredibly, incredibly thin. But what my idea is here now, first thing we're going to do, we need a little container. There we go, that's perfect. I've just got some cheap contact adhesive here. We'll get that open. And what we're going to do, let's get this open. There we go. We'll squirt some into this tub. There we go. Oh, that's the good stuff as well. I can smell by it, it's the good stuff. And what we're going to do, take this brush, I'm going to paint the front of the case all over with contact adhesive. So this is the old-fashioned style solvent contact adhesive. It's I'm actually quite surprised. Most of the contact adhesives you get now, like from B&Q and stuff, are water-based, and they're not actually very good. So this is old school. Well ventilated area for using this stuff, definitely. But make sure you get all covered. You want a really good covering all over. In the old days this would have been done with an animal glue, but contact adhesive actually works better, and it's less nasty than animal glues because you have to heat them up in a pot before you use them. But that's the traditional way of applying veneer. But I've got to admit I prefer this. Nearly there with that. I've just got enough left in here for, there we go. what I squirted in there was just about enough just to cover that. There we are, that's all covered. So we've got a nice even coat all the way over there now. Now we need to let that go off and tack off. While that's happening, so I will just stand that to the back there. And we've got our veneer here. Make sure you can see what I'm doing here. Ooh, yeah, you can see what I'm doing. We'll stretch that out, obviously the opposite way round, like that. We need to hold that down, and we need to I've cut this about 2 inches longer than it needs to be, and the reason behind that is so if I hold that down there, we can tape that down, pull that nice and flat, and we can tape that side down there, and then it gives us something a bit easier to work with. So pull that flat. There we go, that's better. Now we've got something. It's not perfectly flat yet, but that doesn't matter. We've just got something to hold it down, make life a little bit easier to work with. We'll get some more contact adhesive. About the same. And basically we want to repeat the process we've just done on the front on here. So we put a nice liberal coat of this onto the back of the veneer. I'll need some more of that because we're going to have to cover where obviously we have big holes cut in the other piece where we've got cutouts. Because we want to get as good a coverage as possible, we'll just cover the whole sheet and we won't worry about them until we come to cut it out. A little bit more just to finish off. There we go. There we go. That should be nicely coated all over. Now you could leave this to tack off, but it should actually be fine because the other side should have gone nice and tacky by now. We're covered all over there, like that. Now what you need here, you have to basically make sure everything is absolutely flat, because if we leave something under here it's going to make a mess. But we take the case now, and this veneer is very very slightly wider than the case, fortunately. But basically we're going to gently pop that down there like that. Make sure we can see veneer on both sides. We can, and we'll press down. And then I'm going to see if I can find something if I can use my toolbox, because that's quite heavy. We'll put my toolbox on top of that as well, like that. And make sure that's all nicely squidged down. In fact, we can just release the tape on this side, because if there's any tension built up, it can then pull out. So I'm just pulling the tape up on this side. Like that. I don't think that's actually going to pose an issue, but there we go. Just make sure that's doubly down there. We really want this to make sure that all the corners and all the edges stick. We're going to be alright there, yeah. We're alright on that side, let's just make absolutely sure. Right, so basically now it's just a case of we've got to leave this to set, so I will come back in probably a couple of hours time when this has fully gone off, and then we can take this off and we can do the next part of the process. So I'll come back when we're ready for that. Right, okay, that's been a good hour now, and if I feel in there, that's basically gone off, so hopefully we can get the case off the top. Actually, I'll use this opportunity to separate the front from the computer case. I'll probably come up with something a little bit neater than how I've just done this now. I've just literally stacked some old washers and what have you up. In fact, you don't need to see me do this. I'll get this one off now, and then we will. There we go. We'll come back when we can lift the, because these are a little bit fiddly to get off. Basically, I need to unscrew all them, and then we can lift the case off the front. So I'll get them off and then we'll come right back. Okay, I've got all the fixings out, so moment of truth. Can we lift this off? There we go, excellent. And hopefully there we've got the veneer nicely applied to the front there. That seems to have gone on without any wrinkles or anything. So all we need to do now is cut the excess of this veneer off. Obviously cut all these out, and then we can look at finishing it. So I've got some sharp knives here, if I can get in it. There we go. We can use this as a guide. That's the first piece off there. We'll trim round the edges and then we'll go in and we'll do the bit in the middle there, the complicated bit in the middle. But we'll go around the edges first, I think. There we go, that's that piece off. As I said before, this veneer was literally just wide enough for this, so we've just got a tiny little bit to trim off from down the sides. That's that piece done. little bit at the top there, just holding on. There we go. Just a little bit of the adhesive which had come out there that was causing a little bit of an issue, but we've got rid of that now. Go down this side. Like that. Okie dokie. I think we can get an idea sort of what we're looking at now. It's actually looking really, really nice. So all we've got to do now is cut out for the disk drives. This is a little bit tricky. Go around, just spin it round, go back in this way, because we want to make sure we're really into the corners, and then we'll cut down like that, because what we don't want to do is get the veneer to tear in the corners when we drop this out. We've got to make sure we're all the way through, or else when we pull it out we could risk tearing the veneer, and obviously we don't want that. That's starting to come out now. You can literally hear the knife cut through the veneer when you go in against the grain. Obviously when like this, when you're going with the grain, you don't get that, but we've got a little bit drop out there, but that's on the back, that won't matter. Hopefully that's coming out. There we go. I'll just go over the top piece there again. There we are. Just lift that out now. Just catching there. I think that's a little bit of the glue which is just holding us up there. Just go in and there we go. Just where the glue's been a little bit thick. I'll look on that side, see how we're looking. We're not looking bad at all there actually. It's just where the contact adhesive we've used was a little bit on the thick side. That's the first hole cut out for the floppy drive. Now let's try and do the CD drive as well. Well, CD drive, the 5 1/4 inch bays I should really say, because we don't know well, I'm not sure what I'm going to use this case for yet, to be honest. I'm toying with the idea of possibly putting it in my office and using it for my office computer. Well, when I get my office sorted out and I've got my new desk in there anyway, it kind of suit the decor. Okay, we're out to there. Let's just go back in that side. Make sure we're free there. We are. Go back in there. see how that's going to come out now. You don't want to, like I said, you don't want to force it or you're going to tear something. When the veneer is this thin, it is incredibly easy to tear it. Because this is very thin veneer. I think we're good there now. Okay, we're free up there, I think. We've just got that top along there just to free off. I think that's got it. There we go. Again, there's just where I glued over it, and some of the glue was a little bit thicker in places. That's where it's made it a little bit trickier to cut through. This is the first time I've tried using this particular veneer, this incredibly thin veneer. Most of the veneers I use are like 0.8, 0.6, something like this. This is 0.3. This is very thin. But it was also quite cheap. And it is still quite a nice looking veneer. So let's have a look at that now. There we go. Give an idea of what it's going to. In fact, I'll get the computer. We'll just very gently put it in place. Get the computer case in. You can see that okay? Yeah, you can see that fine. Get an idea. Kind of what it's going to look like. Obviously then I'm going to put, next thing I'm going to do is varnish this. I'm going to put a yacht varnish on this. One thing to protect it, and another thing, it's going to give this a really nice shine to it. So that's really going to be the next thing we'll have to do. So I will go and get some yacht varnish and perhaps some scrap paper I can put down on this desk, and then we'll be right back. Okay, we're back and we're ready to put some varnish on this. Basically, it's just going to protect it and, you know, make it look a lot nicer. This is just cheap trade yacht varnish I like to use. It's basically not got a lot of a colour in it. It's just a clear varnish, but it's very tough. It gives a really nice tough finish. I'll open that up. I've got a nice clean brush here. You want to make sure your brush has no loose bristles or anything, and it's nice and clean. And we're basically just going to obviously make sure you've got nothing, no specks or anything on the actual piece you're working on. It's just going to be a case of now there are, you know, you could use a spray varnish. There's various different varnishes you could use for this. I just prefer, well, when I'm doing something like this, I don't mind the, you know, perception of brush strokes. Some people don't like to see, you know, brush strokes. It doesn't, I don't think it makes it look, you know, look out of place. And actually, to be honest, you don't really get many with this stuff. I'm going to go on nice and thick with it. You might have noticed I have put the hole through for the power button, because I had forgotten that before, but I just quickly popped it through before we started filming and putting the varnish on. So you want a nice even coat, and try and keep your brush strokes, you know, in the same plane really, and it won't really streak. Like I said, it won't be as perfect obviously if it was a sprayed finish, but it still won't look bad. And there we go, that's about it. I just really need to let that dry now, and we'll come back when it's dried off. And we can do a few final bits of finishing to it. There we go. You end up keep playing with it, and you see a few imperfections and spray them out, but really if you just leave it, most of the imperfections will actually go out on their own. Right, yeah, I'm happy with that now. So we will we'll leave that, we'll let that dry off, and I will come back when that's dry. That'll probably actually be tomorrow because this is quite slow drying, and I like to give it a good 18-24 hours to actually dry off. So we'll be back as soon as this is dry. Right, okay, it's actually now a full 24 hours later, and this has gone off fairly nicely. There are a couple of little imperfections on it, but you know, overall I'm fairly pleased with it, but a couple of little things I do need to sort on it. One of them, these need reinforcing a little bit. I'll just get you down a little touch. But basically where I put these screws in to secure it to the actual computer frame, I need to reinforce these a little bit. I also want to put the power button in at this point. Now I have modified the power button slightly. If you remember before, it had like little wings coming off it like that to screw it in place. The way I want to fit this, it wouldn't actually fit in the case with those little wings on it. Fits perfectly without them, so I just took a pair of side cutters like that and just snipped away at it, and basically just took off everything that I don't need. And we're going to use our old friend Araldite, a 2-part epoxy, to fit that to the front of this, and then we're also going to use a little bit just to reinforce those. And there's one spot just there where the disk drive is, where it's not quite fixed down, so we might try and get a little bit in there and just secure that down and let that dry off. So I think we'll in fact that's probably the first one we want to do, and then we can put a bit of tape just to hold it. Let's get some 2-part epoxy mixed up. I've got some part used tubes here. There we go. We'll mix a little bit of this up. Oh, hang on a minute, that's those are both hardeners. Let me get a resin. That's a resin. Don't want to mix too much up at once, you only want a little bit at a time. This is a fairly fast setting epoxy, it's set in about 10 minutes. There we go. Mix that up. like that. And then the very first thing I want to do with some is just where it hasn't stuck. And I don't know why it was there, because everywhere else seems to have stuck really nicely, but just along that edge there hadn't quite stuck in. So we'll just get a little bit of the epoxy and get it in there, in where it's not stuck. And then we just want to basically get something to hold that down, so we'll use a little bit of this is a low tack masking tape, which basically means it's not very sticky. If I can find the end of it, there it is. I say it's low tack, it seems to stick to itself well enough, but it's not a very it doesn't pull paint off or anything when you use it. You can use half of that. Yeah, so I can put it on this freshly applied varnish, and I'm not too worried about it ripping the finish of the varnish off. Just pull that down. That should do it. That's just holding that tight like that, just while that epoxy goes off in there. Because that was really the only place where I saw anything that I was a little bit concerned about. Right, now we've got to work quick because this epoxy will be now starting to go off. And I want to put a tight, I don't need very much for this because this button's already a really nice tight fit, but we'll just put a tiny bit all around there, like that. I can take the button and we can push the button into place. Make sure we're white around there, just any excess that's got onto the front. Yeah. Just get that off. There we go. I've got a little bit of the araldite coming through. Unfortunately, if we can get it off before it sets, it won't cause a problem. There we go. And it does at least show that this this varnish has set quite nicely now. It's not causing a problem with that. There we go. That's the front switch in, and that should illuminate when this thing's done. Right, let's get on and just add a little bit of extra. This is going off a little bit now, but it should still be good enough. I just want to reinforce around the back of here because I probably didn't use enough when I actually put these in place. And I just want that to wick down basically between the screw that's coming out and the wood, just to reinforce that, because what we don't want is these to turn inside the wood, because it could damage the front veneer and it'll make it very difficult for us to do the front up. Just a little bit on that one there. You see that one's actually loose. Okay. And that one at the other end's actually fairly solid, but I'll just add a little bit to that just round there. Right, okay, that should be alright. Now we'll give that another, well, this is, like I said, this is a rapid set epoxy, so we'll just give that 10 minutes now just to set off, and then we can do the next little bit. So back in a sec. Right, well, I think that epoxy's going off. It's been about 20 minutes or so actually, and yeah, that epoxy's going off nicely there now. So let's take Hopefully this is not going to damage my varnish. No, it's not. Yeah. Just where it had not stuck there, that's better. Right, let's get that off. There we go. That's the front done now. And one thing I want to do before I go any further, got a black marker pen here. I'm just going to go around all the edges. You can see the edges are basically unfinished, so I've just got a pen. I'm just going to go around all the edges of the front now with the marker pen and just black them in. Like that. That just looks a little bit nicer, doesn't it? Just like that. There we go. We'll do that side. And I might just do in fact you're not going to see this really. We could just black in. So this you shouldn't actually see because of how the drive is going to fit. But basically that's it. Now you might have noticed what I haven't done yet is put the two holes in for the LEDs at the bottom there, for the simple fact I'm not sure yet whether I want to use them or not. What I'll do now, I'll get this mounted back in the case, and I might even stick a couple of drives in there just to get an idea, and we'll put it together and we'll have a final idea what this thing is actually going to look like. So back in a sec. Right, okay, and those are basically the finished results. Now, it would look better with a black floppy drive in there. It's just I don't have one down here. That's just one I had in the drawer there. I thought I'd just stick in just to show. I don't even know if this is going to end up with a floppy drive in it. It could be, you know, like an SD card or and USB and things like that on there. I've just stuck a floppy drive in there and CD. These aren't even fixed in, you know, I've literally just put them in just for give an idea of what it's going to look like. Obviously, you know, there'll be also a couple of LEDs down there, one for network, one for hard drive, if we decide to use them. The power LED is actually the power button. When you press that, it will actually glow and it will light up round there green, so you know that's pretty well sorted as it is. So that's basically it. That's, like I said, we took that old E-Machines case with that, originally had like a horrible moulded plastic front on it and just the two drive bays there, well, two drive bays there and then like a built-in media slot there with, you know, compact flash and SD card and everything on it. But we've basically reverted back to something a little bit more vintage looking and a little bit, I think, a little bit more stylish with that front that I've made for it. I'll just give you a quick look at the sides. You can see where we've just painted it in there. You really can't tell now. Obviously, I mean, the computer is just empty at the moment. There's nothing actually inside it. Like I say, I'm not 100% sure yet what I'm going to do with this case. I do kind of like the look of it now I've finished it. I don't know whether it's going to end up as like a retro gaming rig. I don't know whether it's going to end up as perhaps I'm redoing my bedroom at the moment, and it would kind of like suit in with the styling. I've set basically a little desk up so I can do a lot of my like, you know, office style work in there. Well, that's the plan when it's finished anyway. And I'm wondering, do I make this my office PC for in there, because it would suit the styling that I've done that well, I'm planning to do that room. I really don't know yet. Like I said, does it end up as just a PC in here? I'm not sure. I'm just happy I've took what was initially a case that I was going to actually just send away for recycling, and turned it into something that's, you know, something a little bit different, a little bit unusual. You don't obviously see real veneered wood fronted PCs. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. Like I said, this was just a little bit of a thing I thought I'd have a play with, and stick it out on YouTube for you guys to have a look at. Anyway, so I'll say hope you enjoyed that little mini project. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.